Okay, next question we have. Which sci-fi novel blew you away when you first read it? I think you have some opinions on this.
Well, of course, and I always want to offer forth an opinion, but I had a think about this, and actually there's several that really kind of reached out and touched me, and we've discussed this before.
Well, we discuss this as a topic all the time.
In our list, we've got one which coincides, so I'll get that out of the way first.
Rendezvous with Rama.
Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama.
I was hoping we'd say that at the same time. It would have been so impressive.
No, because I name-checked the author first. But certainly, that's one actually you read first, and when it came up in a collection of books that I was putting together, you said, "Oh, you've got to have Rendezvous with Rama." And
in fact, I enjoyed it so much, I offered to just loan you my copy so you could read it.
Well, it's all right. I got one to complete a set.
Yes, you did.
I like to complete
the Sci-Fi Masterworks, which you keep talking about.
I do, actually, yeah. And it's a book about aliens, where it never shows the aliens. And I'm a big fan of that. It's something I always say about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And the thing that New Who falls down on is they show the monster too quick.
Mm-hmm.
The best episodes of Doctor Who are ones where you don't actually see the monster until like episode 2, 3, 4.
The Horror of Fang Rock, for example.
Yeah.
You don't see it's what is it? The Sontarans are fighting the Routons, and it's the first time that a Routon is ever in the show.
Yeah.
They're mentioned a lot, but it's the first time they're there, and you don't see the Routon until episode 3 of a 4-parter.
Yeah, and then Ark in Space, you don't properly see the monster and the horror until episode 4.
Yeah.
But anyway, that book actually is probably the biggest inspiration for me in terms of its writing style, and this unresolved mystery that leaves you guessing and guessing. And another book which has really blew me away, Alfred Bester, The Star's My Destination. I just loved that style. It's just something about it really engaged with me. But then also I put in there Larry Niven's Ringworld. I loved the really thinking outside of the box way that he dealt with this alternative for how a world could be created. And I believe it's also one of the inspirations behind Terry Pratchett's Discworld series.
Yes, he wrote Strata basically as a response.
Yeah, and then finally, I have to add to this list, probably this is a little bit of a contentious one, possibly, Kim Stanley Robinson's Red Mars. I got into the Mars trilogy when I was quite young, actually. When it was coming out, I bought Red Mars when I assumed it was a standalone book, and then shortly afterwards Green Mars came out, and I waited for Blue Mars to get into paperback so I could get a copy, because back then I didn't have the money to afford hardbacks, and also I liked all my books to match.
They do look quite good as a matching set.
They do, but certainly Red Mars, I loved the world building that went on there, and the fact that you really got invested in so many of these characters. It wasn't a Mary Sue vehicle for 1 or 2 characters, but actually there's about 100 different characters that kind of get fleshed out and built up, and you track them through their lives and delve into their personalities. I really like that kind of holistic approach to the characters in a book. And I've read some of the Kim Stanley Robinson books, and I've actually found some of his other work, like Ice Henge, to be rather pedestrian, but he's kind of got it right with the Mars trilogy. So anyway, your choices.
Well, the first and foremost, I have to admit, yes, Rendezvous with Rama was amazing.
Yeah.
The other ones I've got, well, 2 by the same author because he's that good, Greg Egan.
Right.
Permutation City, which just amazed me, the idea of the dust theory. You could create a simulated universe whose rules are so correct that if you turned off the power running it, it would run on its own internal logic, which I love the idea of. And he explores the ways that can work and the ways that would break down in this story. But the characters are so good as well. They're not real, and it's obvious that they're not real, but the way he set them out as a vehicle for progressing the story is just fantastic. But the one that he did as a kind of, let's expand on these ideas and go further into it, is diaspora. The idea of being able to create a human consciousness who will live forever because they're simulated inside a computer, and how you can use that to transfer people between dimensions by basically data transfer is phenomenal. It blew me away. I could not put the book down. It is that good. I recommend it to anyone. It is such a good book. But aside from those two and Arthur C. Clarke, you have to put Clarke in, he's that good. Horrible guy, brilliant writer, is Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. And that book blew me away because it's not just a story, it's not just science fiction, it's not just quite feasible as a very near future thing, but it reads like an action film. It just, you can't stop.
I must say,
it's brilliant.
That's one of those books. I've read Rendezvous with Rama, but I've also read Snow Crash, and I have to say it is a very good book. It's kind of it's very funny and engaging, and it doesn't try and bury you with sci-fi technobabble, which is something which I find detracts in a lot of books. They kind of try and spread out their BS science everywhere, and it becomes overpowering. And Snow Crash doesn't do that. It kind of glosses over the technology side of things.
Absolutely. But there was a fifth, and this is an odd one because I didn't read it at first. I heard it. I heard it in a collection of rather not good sci-fi short stories that were read by a variety of people from science fiction TV. And it's called Why I Left Harry's All-Night Hamburgers by Lawrence Watt Evans. It is amazing. Hardly any sci-fi in it. The entire sci-fi premise is that people can travel between dimensions, but they won't be able to find their way home. And it's from the point of view of a guy who works in an all-night hamburger restaurant just in the middle of nowhere in the mountains in America, where dimensional travelers keep coming. And he talks to them and realizes that he's not happy living in this backward nowhere town. He wants to see more of the world. And that's all that it is to it. It's a story about someone who isn't happy with their life and wants to move on. And it was so good that I eventually tracked it down. And it's in a few short story collections. Lawrence Watt Evans has a sci-fi collection called Why I Left Harry's All-Night Hamburgers, but I don't have it in that. I have it in the New Hugo Winners Volume 2, and I think, where is it? It's from 1991. This collection's from 91. It's brilliant. He won an award for his story. It's that good. And I have to say, if you get a chance, read it. It's just phenomenal.
See, I'm sure I've come across that short story before when I was in secondary school. So probably about the time that it came out, because I think my English teacher used it during the course of early, almost kind of like pre-GCSE bit, you know, when you spend 3 years playing at being at school. And I have a vague memory of that short story coming up. We studied a few short stories, and I think that is one that I've come across before. And yeah, you know, I vouch for it. It's an enjoyable read. It's not too taxing. You don't have to pay too much attention. It's, you know, it's kind of one of those pleasant, easy to pick up and just get into and then put down and move on kind of a story.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's the ones that took our breath away.
If there's any that have taken your breath away, feel free to put something in the comments. We'll take a look at that and maybe, again, revisit this and look at some of the top comments that other people have come up with their favourite blow-away sci-fi books. And it's always interesting to see what really tickled your imagination.
Absolutely, because we want to find new good books to read.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a win-win.